G'day ladies and gentlemen, Duckville here. I've got a Zerg vs Terran matchup here for you today. So it's been a little bit of a while since I've actually posted anything. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit busy, and also I was a little bit worried about casting stuff because there's a small issue. Like, you can hear me pressing a button right now. I'm trying to use the, there's a particular key that you can use, particularly used when observing and looking at replays, is Control F for follow current selection, and it puts the current unit that you've selected in the middle of the screen and tries to follow it, right? But this has been broken since the recent patch, and despite, like I posted on the Blizzard forums, and hopefully it's being looked at and that kind of thing, and I was hoping that it'd be fixed by now, because surely it was just a tiny thing that they've broken, but I don't know, it hasn't been fixed yet, so I've had to, I'm just gonna have to, like right now, just for an example of what I'm talking about, I'd normally really love to just, you know, click this button and follow this drone, but unfortunately I can't, so I have to kind of, I have to manually follow stuff. So I do apologize if the quality of observing is a little bit wacky today compared to normally, but until this gets fixed, this is just going to be a real issue on ladder maps and ladder casts. So I don't know, I'll see what I can do, because it is only the ladder maps. I don't know why this has happened, but yeah, it's really weird. Anyway, let's talk about our players here today. Up at the top left hand side is our red Zerg player here, is indirectum. I'm kind of worried about that name a little bit there, but indirectum's opponent down at the bottom right hand side here is going to be our blue Terran player here named Natasha. And this is a replay that was sent in to me. A shout out to Tim from Sweden, sent this one in. I'm not going to say who Tim is, because I think someone mentioned on the comments one time that I should probably not say who it is, because a lot of the time when people send replays, they always, you know, no one really ever sends me stuff, and this is very true. No one really sends stuff that they lose. Like, you know, you can have really good games where you do lose, but a lot of the time afterwards you're not thinking, wow, that was awesome, let's get this one casted. So I'm not going to say which one Tim is in this particular case, but shout out to Tim for sending this one through. And we will see how this one goes, because it is on Daedalus Point, one of the very interesting new maps. It did get a recent change here. We're just sort of watching a worker battle right now. It's quite intriguing. One of these is very low, very nicely microed there by indirectum, and is even going to set up shop there on the gas and take that refinery away from Natasha for now. So I also do want to mention, of course, you may have heard I do have the music on. It was suggested, you know, maybe try out having the music on, because sometimes when there's a bit of a lull from me talking, that, you know, it'd be nice to have a little bit of the background music on. So I thought I'd put on the Brood War soundtrack, also a really cool addition that Blizzard have put in. And yeah, so just, you know, all of these things, obviously with the observing kind of stuff, there's nothing I can do about that. So as I said, I do apologize if that's a little bit icky at times, but I'm doing my best. But yeah, with the music, if, you know, let me know if you think the music is a good idea. It's on relatively low, kind of. Can you hear it? I can hear it. I don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. I've got to sort of do some things in editing and that kind of stuff, but we'll see how it goes once we get to that stage. Now, indirectum, we've got gas coming in. There's almost the... Do we have... no, we don't actually have... It's sort of a little bit later on the gas. The second gas now also on the way. This is not... you know, normally we do kind of, you know, high masters and GM kind of stuff, but I figured since Tim sent this one in, and it was a little bit intriguing to look at from my initial quick run through. Sometimes I do sort of preview replay sometimes, just to have a quick look at what goes on, and this one was a little bit interesting. I sort of just sit in the corner of the map and watch the mini map, and this one looked a little bit wacky. So hopefully this one is pretty cool. But yeah, it is a little bit lower than Masters, but it's all good, because it's always fun to watch some good games. Of course, you know, make sure you are tuning in. Speaking of a little bit lower than Masters right now, I have been doing a lot more streaming, of SC2, doing a lot of natural selection and Dota 2, as much Dota 2 lately, just because I've had some troubles with Dota. Nice micro there from indirectum to keep that drone alive. You've always got to try and lower the Reaper attacks here as Natasha comes through, is trying to take out some of these Lings that are chasing away this Reaper. And given that speed is not all the way, this could be quite frustrating for these Lings to be able to deal with this Reaper. So we do have, of course, now indirectum should, looks like we are going to go for something a little bit, pressure based here. We've got lots of gas coming in. We can also see the Roach Warren and the Baneling Nest were on the way and have now completed, and that Reaper did scout them. So we're hoping that Natasha is going to be playing a very careful kind of style here, because, you see that kind of stuff from a Zerg player, especially when this lair was so fast. Has the Reaper seen the lair? Has not seen the lair, actually. I'd love to see Natasha just jump in and have a quick look at the lair, because if you can see that kind of thing, you're in for one hell of a treat when it comes to big busts, because the Zerg can get their Roach speed, they can get their Baneling speed, and things can get very, very messy if you expand and you're not too careful. So Daedalus Point did have the map changed a little bit. Of course, I'm sure we all remember the ramp used to be something about your mum joke. It was bigger than her or something, and but it was changed just recently in a small patch. The patch that I was hoping they'd fix this follow bug, but it was reduced. It gives it a little bit of an easier sort of presence here. It's not as bad to wall off. You could just use like an Evo chamber and a spine or something to protect from Hellion run-bys. You can also use, a few supply depots, a bunker, and that kind of thing to set up shop here. And of course, with the Protoss, they can do a couple of, they can do, 3 gates, and it should wall off if you use the pylon as well. So all these things, all good to go there in terms of just sort of making this map a little bit nicer. It is a little bit nicer given that there is a lot of open space through the middle. You can see all of this area here, apart from that little engineering bot. There's a lot of really open space. It's a very, very I guess it's a very wide map in respect to the fact that you can execute really good flanks and this kind of stuff here. But speaking of execution here, indirectum does have these units now on the way. Speed for Banes is done, but where are the rest of the units? Are we actually going to go for an attack here? It kind of feels like we're just just waiting to see if there are going to be some more units. We have a decent amount of drones out. We've got good saturation at both bases. Would be nice to grab a couple of extra drones just over here to make sure this is 16 out of 24. And then that one will be ready to go. But a couple of Banes now coming through. Meanwhile, indirectum is going to... Well, there isn't too much to deal with just yet. A few of the Marines at the top of the ramp there, but we do have a double drop that is now proceeding up through the top left-hand side of the map. We do have a lot of racks now coming up, so it is going to be a bio play here from Natasha, and Natasha's now going to drop inside the main base of the opponent. We can see the Marines now coming through. They do not have stim. Oh, they do have stim. Sorry, where's the stim? There it is. Going to break all of the drone line here. One spine crawler just inside, which was here from originally, is going to help defend, but the Roaches have busted in. The Banelings have done their work as well, and it looks as if Natasha is also in a little bit of trouble. Lots of Marines now pushing on this main base here. A Queen will pop out. She'll go down very quickly. The Spore Crawler has been killed off. The Marines now going to back off to the middle line. Nicely done by Natasha, just to sort of make sure that these Lings are trading as inefficiently as possible. But all the while, the CC goes down. The front door is also going down here for our Terran player, and indirectum is going to be busting in, but how much damage has been taken back at home? 11 Roaches now about to pop out. We do see that there is an infestation pit just off to the side. We've got a fourth base going up, as well as that third that was finished. But I mean, we've lost so many drones. We can see the drone kill tally is up to 22. Natasha doing an excellent job with all of those Marines. Unfortunately, we didn't see any of the drones retreat, so it looks as if we will have a secondary attack here from Natasha. Going to back off with the medevac for now. The Spine Crawler should finish off those Marines. Not able to get away from the wrath of the Spine and those the Roach that was there. So I don't know, we've had a crazy aggressive start to this game. Some more ranks are going to be coming up for Natasha as, well, we'll see if our Terran player is able to take the natural back again, because these Roaches are always going to be threatening. We don't have any tanks out at the moment, or in fact, sorry, there is just one tank that is finished up now. We've got a lot of Marines coming out, no Marauders or anything though, so we will need to, we'll need to see some good defense here from Natasha if the Terran player is going to be able to take this natural, because the roaches are constantly going to be able to batter down the front door and pressure this expansion here. Going to once again have to lift up, but the medevac did drop back inside the main base here. Good harassment from Natasha. This is one thing that you do find at lower levels sometimes when you watch replays, is that sometimes people in, when you look down at some of the lower levels, they'll focus on more of this kind of micro-intensive stuff. You kind of think, wow, I'm totally someone in GSL or something like that, but then they sort of mess up some of their macro, and then these kinds of things can happen, where Natasha has, we were banking for a little bit. We've got lots of gas. We can probably take some of these SCVs off and switch them over to the natural. But I mean, for our Zerg player in particular, indirectum has sort of been focusing a little bit on keeping up the pressure with this harassment here, and unfortunately has lost a lot of the drone count. It's down to 22, sorry, and we are supply blocked for a minute. So I think for our Zerg player, we have an interesting transition here. Swarm hosts are on the way, everybody's favorite unit. Burrow is also researching, Enduring Locusts are also on the way. I would like to see this cancelled and switch into some drone production. We really need to boost up the economy. It's all well and good to have these swarm hosts out. It is really good, don't get me wrong, because they are a really, really valuable defensive tool, because they provide you with some free defense. However, you do need to be rebuilding that economy right now once you have established that defense. And indirectum does have 7 drones on the way. We'll probably see that some more drones will be added into the mix very soon, but Natasha has had time to get the natural base up and running. We've got tanks and marines coming out, so we're looking back to a little bit more of an older style here from our Terran player. And this will be quite interesting, because this actually should do reasonably well against swarm hosts and the roaches. Like, the thing you want to be doing here is exactly what Natasha is going for, which is utilizing drops to try and take advantage of the fact that swarm hosts are very immobile units. You have to burrow them. They're basically like siege tanks. Yeah, siege tanks. Yeah, my voice was cracked there. You have to burrow them and send out the locusts and make sure you put them in the right position. Whereas, you can't deal with that kind of thing when you've got medevacs constantly dropping on. Like, could you imagine if we had, a drop coming in here just harassing the main base and then switching it back down to the third base and then possibly even heading back up to the natural or back into the main again? This kind of thing, it's not easily dealt with swarm hosts, because they're just such slow and immobile kinds of units that need time to prepare. So Natasha, I think if we continue on this kind of style for the moment, this tank marine style, this would be quite awesome. We do have quite a major supply block for both players right now, but it looks as if Natasha is going to push through towards the top of the map. That 12 o'clock base is very exposed. We can see that the drone lines still need to be repaired here for indirectum, but the problem is that, when you're spending on those drones, that means you're not spending on your units as well, because it just means that all that larvae has gone into the production of those attacking units, and I mean, it's just hard to deal with that kind of thing. So it looks as if indirectum is going to go for what looks to be an attempted flank here. We've got the swarm host setting up shop. They're going to try and drop in the locusts to say hello to all the units on their way back. The marines are actually on move command, right click down. It looks like the marines are going to get chewed up. There is a random drone here. This guy is a complete hero. The locusts do take care of a couple of the units here, but there is another drop, and this is beautiful work here from Natasha, just dropping in and killing off some of the, killing off the hatchery that was there. Some of the extra buildings are now under attack as well, and it looks as if our Terran player is just playing this out really well. I really do think this is probably the best way you can deal with this swarm host kind of style. Pick up those marines and get back out of there. No, unfortunately, did not get time to pick it up, but the swarm hosts are here. Really struggling with the economy right now is our Zerg player. Indirectum. Aspire is on the way. I don't know how I feel about this Spire. Like, you do need a Spire, but I mean, at this point, you really want to get those drones back up and running. Transfer a couple across to the third base. Make sure you're mining as efficiently as possible at all of your bases, and just make sure that the economy is back on track, because at this stage, our Terran player is starting to beef up. Natasha has 1-1 on the upgrades. We've got lots of Marines now coming out, but the 3 mutas are coming out. I'm not sure about this one here from Indirectum. Like, this is a point. All the Zerg players are sitting back and saying, well, it's all good that you have this cool stuff. You have the Swarm Host, you have the cool Mutalisks and things like that, but you know, is it going to be enough? Because the Terran player has now got a couple of tanks out. We'll probably see some more coming out from Natasha very soon. I don't think this third base is going to last too long. There's another tank just up to the top of the cliff. We're going to siege that one up. No, looks like a tank is actually stuck. There is no way out because this CC is blocking, this Rax here is blocking as well. There's no path out for any of those factory units, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But the Locusts still continue to threaten this third base. Natasha's got a couple of tanks out here. This is the point that I was talking about where Swarm Host can buy you time. What you'd want to be doing at this point is you would want to be using the Swarm Host as much as possible just to keep the Terran back on this side of the map. Like if we look on the minimap for a second, you want to keep the Terran around this area because you don't want him pushing out and coming across and dropping into all of your bases, because that's where, of course, with the style that we've got, it's very immobile and hard to deal with, not to mention the fact that the economy still needs to be brought back into shape. We've got 45 drones at the moment, a couple more have just popped out, but it's just... it's still going to be quite troublesome for indirectum, but we'll see what happens. A couple of these mutas still flying about. We'd love to see them harassing perhaps at the natural base, but our Terran players continuing to get this drop harassment going. The Marines are now pushing forwards on this top base here. The fourth is in trouble. I'd say that one is going to go down. Lots of Banes, lots of these Swarm Hosts are here. The Locusts are going to be doing a lot of damage, taking out one and two of the tanks. That ridiculous damage that the Locusts do is working wonders here for indirectum. And it looks as if, however, the fourth base is going to go down. Our main base hatchery was never re-established, unfortunately, in some of these buildings, or at least the spawning... Okay, the spawning pool's being resupplied by that overlord there, but indirectum still continuing to push on this third base, just holding the Terran back, doing as much as possible to try and keep that Terran from pushing out on the map. But these medevacs are just doing wonderful work for Natasha. Gonna go drop inside the natural base. It looks like that infestation pit is in a lot of trouble, and so is the economy of Natasha. We've done, as I said, we've done a really good job of just sort of trying to get back across the map to drop in and you know, disrupt the Zerg economy. But at this stage, it's a little bit hard to actually get anywhere because these Swarm Hosts are providing some great defense. But Roaches have burrowed their way inside the main base. They're going to take out one of the tanks. They're looking to take out some of the rest of the buildings here as well, and they're just going to head back off to the side, maybe burrow in a split of a couple of these Roaches to keep them alive and keep the Terran guessing as to where all of these units have gone. But unfortunately for indirectum, they do get cleaned up. Natasha comes through. That drop that we were looking at before has now got a lot more damage done, but the Banelings have cleaned it up. One Marine did survive. It's in the medevac there, but is probably not going to get too much more done. Siege tanks are probably going to be high in production very soon because we've got some extra factories that have now completed. We've got 5 factories are now done for our Terran player, and we still are going to have a hard time getting the third base for now until all of those tanks come out. But the bank is starting to get cleaned up. Natasha does need to get a third base very soon, though. It's surprisingly annoying trying to deal with a Swarm Host contain like this. But we'll see if indirectum is going to be able to salvage the day, as it were, given that, you know, he's had to kind of just really spend a lot on those Swarm Hosts. We lost the Spire. I really don't agree with the rebuild of this Spire. I don't think it's needed at all. I think what we would love to see is just maybe getting the drone count up a little bit further, making sure the main base is properly populated by workers, and then looking to grab, you know, the 1-1 on the missile attack upgrades. Cancel, like I said, you don't need this. We do need a 4th base, but our Zerg players is, I don't know, this one's kind of difficult to call because the Terran can certainly do something like this, looking for a Doom drop. The mutas do find the medevacs on the way out. Is he going to be able to kill off one? It looks, oh, one of those medevacs alarmingly low on health right now. All of the units have now dropped down. We can see that indirectum is going to have to retreat some of the forces. We've got the Swarm Hosts on the way back. I think perhaps leaving a couple of them at the front door is a good idea, but as you can see now, Natasha on the way out. 6 mutas are now being built. Our drone count for the Zerg is sitting at 52, 28 workers for our Terran player, and the big Doom drop is now on the way, just heading up towards the main base of the Zerg player. And indirectum is a little bit out of position, and of course these slow units need time to set up, so the Banes are going to be the first ones on the scene. The mutas are going to come through as well. This is going to be very hard to stop. This is a big beefy force. And keep in mind, like the upgrades, we have a 1-1 Terran against the 0-0 Zerg play here, where we see some splits trying his best to try and split those up. Natasha does clean up most of the Banes, but the Swarm hosts are sending in their Locusts. They're going to be next on the scene, taking care of a lot of the Terran units here. We do see a lot of the forces going down, but unfortunately there is still a lot that remains. Broodling's coming out to try and help out, and the next wave of Locusts is now coming through. But our Terran player is going to, I think we may see an evacuation here very shortly. Does need to be careful of those mutas, but look at those Locusts just chasing after all of those units. And these Terran units have just wandered their way across the map and have somehow gotten in. We can see more Terran forces at the front. This is crazy here from Natasha, is now getting some work done. Would love to see the third go up right now. You just send the orbitals over just to try and set that up. But as you can see, Natasha just trying to make the most of what we can here with these last few remaining Marines, and they do get taken out. There's a couple of the Marines were at the front have now also been taken out. If we can preserve the medevac count, that would be quite awesome, given that our Terran player is now just about mined out of minerals. Where is it? There we go. We're setting up a third. We're also looking to take a fourth as well across towards the 6 o'clock position here. And it looks as if the mutas have actually cleaned up most of the medevacs there. That's actually a really big catch. Like I was saying, if you can keep the medevacs alive, that is quite awesome. But unfortunately, all has gone awry here for Natasha, and now we can see the Locusts have come across. 5 siege tanks are completely unprotected. Natasha goes down in, what was it? Just a crazy kind of weird back and forth kind of trade of economy and armies consistently throughout that game. Natasha is taken down, and indirectum is our winner here. I think Natasha, just a couple of small things, like looking to take another base instead of taking this third when the Swarm hosts were keeping all that pressure on, would have been quite nice to see. But you know, it sort of got to a point where the mutas, where we did actually get the economy pumping quite nicely for our Zerg player, and eventually got a nice count of mutas out. The Swarm hosts on the ground were quite effective, and that was a really good play there from indirectum, just to keep the pressure on the Terran while you try and re-establish things. Hope you all enjoyed the match. I'll catch you all next time. Here. As you can see, 47 damage to bio units, and then the 34 damage against other standard targets. His storms have also been wonderful, just spreading them out across the battlefield, doing really nicely there. And for minigun, he's been sticking with a much more